We use zippers every single day. They're on our jeans, our jackets, our bags, our boots. We pull them up without thinking, trusting that neat row of interlocking teeth to hold everything together. But have you ever stopped and wondered why it's called a zipper in the first place? The word sounds energetic, almost playful, like something moving quickly through the air. It doesn't sound mechanical or technical, it sounds alive. So why is it called a zipper? In today's video, we're diving into the surprisingly fascinating story behind that simple word. We'll explore who invented the device, how it evolved, and how a brand name turned into a household term. Let's dive in right here on History of Simple Things. Before the zipper, fastening clothing was slow and sometimes frustrating. For centuries, people relied on buttons, hooks and eyes, laces, buckles, and pins. While these methods worked, they weren't always convenient. Buttons could pop off, laces took time to tie, and hooks required careful alignment. In the 19th century, as clothing became more fitted and industrial manufacturing increased, there was a growing need for something faster and more reliable. The Industrial Revolution created a culture that valued speed and efficiency, and inventors began experimenting with ways to create a continuous fastener, something that could close fabric smoothly in one motion. The zipper wasn't invented overnight. It was the result of decades of trial, error, and persistence by multiple inventors who saw the same problem and tried to solve it. One of the first people to attempt this invention was Elias Howe, best known for inventing the sewing machine. In 1851, he patented a device called an automatic continuous clothing closure. It resembled an early version of the zipper, using a series of clasps that could be joined together. However, Howe never seriously marketed or developed the invention. His focus remained on promoting and defending his sewing machine patents. As a result, his fastening device never gained traction and largely faded into obscurity. Still, his patent shows that the concept of a sliding continuous fastener was already forming in the mid-19th century. Howe laid important groundwork, even if he didn't bring the zipper into everyday life. Decades later, another inventor took a more ambitious step. Whitcomb Judson introduced a device in 1893 at the Chicago World's Fair called the Clasp locker. Judson's invention was designed primarily for shoes, aiming to replace the tedious process of buttoning high-button boots. He co-founded the Universal Fastener Company to produce and sell it. However, the Clasp locker was complicated and prone to malfunction. It used hooks and eyes that didn't always align properly, and it could easily come undone. Although it attracted attention at the fair, it failed to achieve commercial success. Even so, Judson's efforts were significant because he pushed the idea further than anyone before him and tried to bring it to market. His company would later play a major role in refining the device into something more practical. The true breakthrough came from a Swedish-American engineer named Gideon Sundback. Working for the Universal Fastener Company in the early 20th century, Sundback improved Judson's flawed design. In 1913, he developed a much more reliable fastening system, which he patented in 1917 as the separable fastener. Sundback's version featured interlocking metal teeth that were pulled together by a sliding mechanism. This design is essentially the blueprint for the modern zipper. It was stronger, smoother, and far less likely to pop open. Sundback also developed manufacturing methods to produce the fasteners efficiently, making large-scale production possible. His innovation transformed the idea from a novelty into a practical tool. While people still didn't call it a zipper yet, the device itself was finally ready for widespread use. So when did the name appear? The word zipper didn't come from the inventors, it came from a company. In the 1920s, the B.F. Goodrich Company began using Sundback's fastener on a new type of rubber boots. Goodrich named the boots zippers, inspired by the sound the fastener made when it closed, a sharp zip. The word zip had already entered English in the early 20th century as an onomatopoeic term suggesting speed or quick movement. The boots became popular, and gradually people began referring to the fastening device itself as a zipper. Over time, the brand name became generic. This process, where a brand name turns into the common word for a product, has happened with many everyday items. In this case, zipper stuck because it was short, memorable, and perfectly captured the swift motion of the sliding teeth. As zippers became more common in the 1930s and 1940s, especially in children's clothing and military gear, the name spread quickly. Their heavy use during World War II helped establish them as reliable and practical. In the United States, zipper became the standard term, while in the United Kingdom people often say zip or zip fastener. Although slide fastener is still used in technical contexts, zipper remains the everyday word, a brand name that evolved into a universal term. The word zipper exists because of sound, branding, and timing. The device itself took decades to perfect, with important contributions from Elias Howe, Whitcomb Judson, and Gideon Sundback. However, none of them actually named it. The term came later, when a rubber boot company marketed boots using the fastener and highlighted the sharp zip sound it made. The catchy name stuck, and over time it became the common word for the device itself, showing how marketing and everyday language can shape how we describe even the simplest inventions. Thank you for watching. If you have suggestions for our next video, feel free to share them in the comments below. We'll be sure to give you an acknowledgement for your contribution. Thank you for joining us on this journey through the history of simple things. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more stories woven through the smallest details.